When you express yourself, you feel safe. You are not vulnerable.
Welcome to Harmony Hub. Today, we are honored to have a distinguished guest, a media mogul, and a champion in community journalism. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Mutiu Olawuyi, the CEO of Parrot Media Corporation and the chief editor of New York Parrots, African Parrots, Bronx Post, Manchester Times. Olawi is a respected leader in the media industry, known for his commitment to public safety, community based projects. His publications have been a voice for the voiceless and a platform for the community engagements. Welcome, Mr. Olawi. We are thrilled to have you.
Thank you for having me in this wonderful married podcast show called Harmony Home. I hope you have harmony at home everywhere around the globe. Thank you once again.
You're most welcome. Many couples insist that they talk every day, but they still say they feel unheard. From your perspective, why do you think couples talk without truly communicating?
Again, I'm very pleased to be on this show to talk about something that has to do with my field. That's communication. Communication, I mean, in the area of media, because what we do in the media is pure communication. We deal with the masses, but you're not taking down to the domestic level as a married man with experience over a decade. So one can relate with what you're talking about. And as a manager in different demographies or different institutions, one has had one or two things to do with different people. So I can say that first thing we need to understand is there's a clear difference between talking and communicating. We talk to respond, we communicate to listen to one another. That has to be the simple definition of the two. Now, to go deeper into these two words, talking can be termed as um, expressing the surface level of communication. The deeper side is communication itself. I mean, discussing events, reporting issues within homes, talking about stress and cope. This is talking, not communication. At that level, while it may not have anything to do with emotion, but when you have to consider the emotional effects of the speaker, then you are going deeper to communication. And at this level, there are three things you need to consider. I call it PIV. That is presence, interpretation, and validation. Presence has to do with interlocutor, the listener, showing sign of being present in mind, not only physically. When someone is talking, I mean, your partner is talking, and you're engaging maybe your mobile phone, or you're using a laptop, or you're watching a TV show, or program, or movie, while your partner is expressing his or her feeling, then you're not present. That means there will be no communication at that level, and that can cause chaos in a marital setting. Interpretation, which is the I part of the PIV, has to do with understanding the message of the speaker. If your partner is talking, you need to first know what is the speaker is saying, getting digesting the meaning, both the surface and the deep meaning of the speaker, the message itself. When not listening to respond, as I said earlier, but if you listen just for the person to end and then you respond, then you're not interpreting. You first need to interpret before you respond. If you do not have that mindset of or the skill of interpretation, there will always be chaos. You only be there will never be clear communication. All we have is going to be just talking, talking, and talking, and you will not have a peaceful or harmonious home. In that case, validation is the third one. Validation can indirectly or directly be interpreted as appreciation or acknowledgement of the message of your interlocutor, the person you are talking to, or the speaker or your partner. You have to appreciate the message, acknowledge what the person say. That okay, you said this. Oh, you're right. Even though you disagree with that, validate that because that's the opinion of that person before you bring your own opinion. When you do that, it will solve the issue. If the issue is at the 100-degree level, it will come down to 50. By the time you now communicate politely and you express yourself in a calm way, you realize that communication would have taken place instead of just talking and talking and talking. Because if you are talking, you will only be talking to reply. You're not going to talk to solve any problem.
Wow. PIV: presence, interpretation, and validation. I love that. You said presence, meaning that you need to be present with your mind, not to just listen with your ears. Interpretation, understanding what your partner is saying, trying to see from their own point of view. You're listening to interpret, listening to understand for amicable communication. You're not just listening to react. Then validation. Wow. Validation to validate their feeling, to acknowledge their feeling. And you've said it all. These three pillars are the foundation of effective communication. And this brings me to my next question. What specific habits makes partners feel unheard, even when conversations happen frequently? They still feel unheard.
Actually, there are five major habits that can cause this uh, challenge that you just mentioned, for conversation to take place effectively. I've mentioned the difference between talking and communicating. And one of the habits is that is listening to respond. When you, as a partner, when you are prepared only to respond to your partner, there will always be chaos. You prepare to counter. Naturally speaking, when in most marital homes, you hear people attempting to only respond. As soon as the person starts talking, the partner who is listening, the interlocutor, will start preparing to for defense. And when it is always for defense, there will always be problem. Rather than trying to look for the best way to get the message, to understand the message, what the person will be doing is preparing to reply. So in that case, there'll be problem. Number two is multitasking. You cannot be multitasking while you are communicating. You can be talking and be multitasking. For instance, you can be on phone with your friend and be laughing and still be working in the kitchen as a wife. But you cannot be with your partner who is prepared to talk about an issue that need to be resolved. And you are cutting onion or you are trying to prepare this, is either one will have to affect another. So multitasking cannot help in communication. And number three is the most of the time we see conversation as a form of debate. When, as if you are in a courtroom, you say this, I say my own, I have to defend that part. And what you say in this part, you even mention one word, you abuse me in this area. Why would you use this word for me in this way? Rather than looking at the message, the key message, the minor part, instead of ignoring that and looking at what is this person trying to hit the nail on. So, but you are prepared already. You have a prepared mind that is going to say this. So I have to look for something to defend myself in that. When you turn conversation to a courtroom, like a debate, there will never be communication. All you need at the end of everything, you might spend 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. You only talk. You will never solve any problem. So that is very, very important, and you need to try as much as possible to understand how to eliminate this to get a meaningful conversation with your partner. And another part is that of rationalizing feelings. When you talk about this, when people start to, when you are talking, for example, before you finish talking, your partner has already said you are lying or you are just overreacting. You've already rationalized the feeling of the person. You're going to aggravate the situation. Instead of you to calm down, listen to the person. Wherever the person has made something contrary to what is the reality on your own side, you let it be in your mind and wait for the time you're going to talk. But when you already say the person is lying, there is nothing you will say after that the person will also listen to you. You've already caused more problem. So that's going to break the conversation, and that's going to result to not being able to accomplish your mission of getting something solved domestically. And what I would term as the last one has to do with the what the term as sometimes you have difficult topics. When you avoid difficult topics in homes, it will be very difficult for you to really have something meaningful in your conversation. Because those who avoid the difficult topic will be piling and piling and piling because they're going to be quiet instead of just bringing out the topic, however difficult it is, discuss it in a polite manner. If that partner is also an understanding person that is not only listening to respond, but listening to understand, uh, at the end, there will always be a resolution, and such a home will be peaceful. But when you avoid maybe difficult topics, you feel if I say this, it might cause another problem. Okay, let me be quiet. You keep that silence will just be increasing the challenge. It's not going to solve the problem, and it will continue to lead to a stage where you will no longer be able to cope as partners living together, and you have to depart. So these are the five major things that you need that one needs to really look into specifically, because these are the habits that usually break conversation in a domestic or marital environment.
Thank you. Rationalizing conversations, already reaching conclusion before the next person completes their conversation. You have a prepared mind, and by so doing, it makes you have your own conclusion. There is nothing you can say when it's your turn that the next person will attend to you, or you having a communication with your spouse or your partner, and you're cutting onions. That means you're not present, you're not listening to communicate. Another one you mentioned that hits really hard is when two couples are avoiding hard topics. They don't want to say the hard words, they don't want to say the conversations that are very sensitive. And that way, they leave it in the limbo, not solving a problem, but leaving it there to exist for a longer time. And that brings me to my next question. You mentioned emotional transaction. How does emotional safety influence whether couples can truly communicate with themselves?
Yeah, this is the main thing. We can refer to that as the nucleus part of what make a home peaceful. What do I mean by this? When you say emotional safety per se, we're looking at an environment that is not judgmental. That when you express yourself, you feel safe. You are not vulnerable. But when you know that whatever you say, the next thing is to just turn it to a judgmental or a courtroom, as I said earlier, it will be very, very challenging. That safety is not going to be there. You won't be able to express yourself. And when that safety is low, you are bound to just avoid conversation and accumulate that emotion until it becomes unbearable. And when it becomes unbearable, the day you spark, that's the day the people will see, but they will not understand that you've been carrying those in your mind until you explode. And so philosophers will say, and temporary madness is termed as anger. And when one is angry, some things you will say when you are on in your normal self, you will never have said such a thing because you are at that stage temporarily mad. A mad person does not know what is going on in the world. So emotional safety is important. Both parties have to create that for their partner, for the home to be peaceful, for the home to be harmonious.
Emotional safety, a bedrock for peaceful home. That's a lot of sense in it. I hope our couples out there are learning from our honorable guests for today. Some partners complain. I say everything, but my spouse still doesn't understand. Can you tell us what's happening there? Because that phrase is like an alarm.
Yeah. All one can say in this part is that when you say yeah, I say everything, but my spouse doesn't understand. There are two things that we can say is involved in this. Number one, it's the approach you use to say it, and the environment or the time you say that thing too. Imagine your partner has gone for work and is extremely stressed from work, and the next thing you use as a form of introduction or welcome package for your partner is to complain about something, regardless of how heavy that thing is. You also need to put yourself in the shoe of the person you want to talk to. So, is is it appropriate for you to talk at that period of time? What approach did you use? Even if it's appropriate, what is the approach you use? Do you use an like you are on a football pitch and you are then trying to act like a striker, or you are acting as a defender? So in that case, it's like a battle. You don't present your ego like a form of battle. Present it like somebody who is also considering the person on the other side. How will the person carry the thing? Will the person receive it well? Instead of presenting in a very calm or cool way, you start maybe bashing the person. Maybe and your key message is completely different from what you're even trying to say. Maybe or after bashing, the last sentence you make is going to be the sentence that is going to really be meaningful, or the statement that will be meaningful to the message you're trying to convey to your partner. So in that case, you have already messed up the whole thing. So you need to understand the approach you use for you to be heard. You also need to understand the setting, the time and setting. So that is the demography of your communication. When you combine these two, you will definitely be heard.
Hmm, time and settings. The demography of time and settings. Knowing what to say at the right time in the right situation. That's a lot of wisdom right there. And that brings me to my next question. What practical techniques can couples use to ensure that they are truly hearing one another during their conversations, during communication?
Yeah, to answer this, I don't think that is really um, something that we need to uh, go deeply much into. If you understand what is termed as communication holistically, as we have been saying, you understand the key things that one needs to consider when dealing with tools needed to communicate effectively. Um, there are several approaches. Most of the experts will say that communication takes place when the coder and the encoder, when the code is not interrupted along the way from the encoder to the decoder. So when there is no noise, we call it noise. Whatever that intercepts or disrupts the code to get to the decoder is the noise. To avoid the noise, you have to have some tools to communicate effectively. Number one is reflective. You need to reflect, think about the conversation properly, understand the message clearly, calm down, understand clearly what the message is about. Remove whatever emotion you want to attach to it. Try to reflect on what the person has said. If there's anything that is not really clear, I think it's that time you can calmly ask question. When you ask question, it will definitely work. And aside reflection, emotional labeling is very bad, very very bad. So when you label, especially when you have a conversation and your partner, you are the heat of the conversation with your partner. It's important that you try to avoid abusive words, words that can make the person feel down. When you label them, when you tag them certain thing, it's going to definitely aggravate the problem. It's not going to solve the problem. So if you if you really want to converse properly, you must avoid emotional labeling. It varies from different culture. It depends on any angle one can look at it. It can be causing the person, it can be abusing the person, it can be looking at some of the weak points of the person and be using that to lash the person. Why the person is talking on different thing, you are trying to label the person emotionally. You are this, you are that, you're this, you're that. You're not going to have anything that you're going to accomplish from that. So in communication, if you really want to get results, you need to avoid emotional labeling and you need to reflect. And sometimes you also need to pause. There's what we call pause rule in communication. You might, when the heat of the conversation is becoming too much, relax. And you're relaxing, you're not just relaxing to communicate, you are relaxing to think or try to refresh the message and look at what word will come out of the mouth that is not going to destroy the emotion of the person. So that's why you see most of the great speakers, when they talk, when they're given the mic to speak, they pause. They don't just talk like that. They pause at some point. Maybe at that time they are clapping or people might be laughing. They don't talk at the time people are coming. They are making certain gesture. They wait. As of that time, while people are reacting, they are also refreshing. They are coming up with something else to communicate. I mean, to communicate to their audience. So pause rule is very important. It might be 1 minute pause. It can be 30-second pause. It can be 20, depending on your cognitive capacity. So you need to learn to pause. And also, one need to also understand what we call the need-based languages, statements of desire, not the goal. Your goal is not based on what you desire, but for the two party to clearly have what is called understanding. If your language based one is to understand what A is saying and B is also having the same perspective, that I need to get this from what this person has said, I think it will solve a lot of problem. That key, that utilization of that understanding in communication on both sides will help to solve a lot. And when you're done with conversation, there is what we call the 10 minute break. If it is becoming too much and you feel that you are not heard, the person is not heard, maybe you should find time to have a little bit break of that conversation. If it's getting too long, but you realize that there is no key point, you are not getting to what you have to get to. Maybe you politely request for excuse, maybe I have to go to toilet, or in a very very respectful manner, not to say get out of my way, I want to go to the toilet. If you like, continue talking there or something like that. Whatever you say when you return is going to be meaningless to the person because you've already established what in the mind of the person, whatever that person say is useless because you've said it already. So if you come back to continue the conversation, it's still going to be meaningless. So you need to avoid anything that is going to lead to that. Whatever break that you are doing, make it harmonious break, make it a mutual break, and say, why can't we just have a break and digest all what you have said now, and then let's come back and see where whatever message we've been able to gather from what you said. I will think about it and then I'll come back to you, and then I'll pick out whatever you've said. Any area you feel that I'm wrong in the interpretation of what you said, you can let me know, and then I'll also let you know if my message is very clear to you. Definitely, if all these tools are used, you will definitely accomplish your mission by living a happy and harmonious home without battling every day, without giving your neighbors problem of saying, "Ah, they've started again. They've started shouting at each other." So you can communicate and solve problem by trying to understand, by trying to not being a blackmailer or destroyer of emotion, by trying to also reflect, and by trying as much as possible to give yourself a break to review whatever you've said, even what you've said that you feel by the time you have a break, you must have thought of some of the words you've used. Maybe when you come back, you might start with apology for using word A, word B, word C. You feel bad when you thought of it. It will calm down the mind of your partner and to make your partner to really feel at home to continue the conversation with you without feeling dejected or rejected.
This is my first time seeing it from that perspective that pausing can actually help in a hot conversation between couples. The way you said it, if couples are having an argument or a conversation and it's getting heated, the best is to give themselves, you call it an harmonious pause. That's remarkable. And that brings me to the next question, which is that how do upbringing, how do upbringing or personal history shape the way individuals communicate in marriage?
This is one of the most important part of relationship in life. When you talk about um, the upbringing in relation to marital life, communication, it's one of the key parts that usually break or make a marital home. If you have a background of a chaotic background, if you come from a home where emotion is disregarded, there is no proper communication, or you come from a broken home, you don't really have a stable parental upbringing, maybe from both parents, definitely your approach to handling your marital life will be difficult. Maybe you grow up in an environment or maybe with someone who maybe exploit or oppress you, and you always need to defend yourself every time. You will carry that to your husband home, and you'll be using the same template to deal with your husband. And of course, that is going to really affect you. You will end up having challenge because it will definitely be miserable because all you will always be thinking is he's coming with a problem, and I have to defend myself. And that defense will definitely push you to continually have problem, continually not being able to solve the problem because your home, you come from a broken home, and the fact that you come from a broken home, you you're unable to transit to correct the problem that you are carrying from your home. By the time you get to your husband's home, you will definitely be doing the same thing, and you will not see it as a problem. You will see it as a normal thing because you have never had any experience on the other side and understand the approach to use to get such a thing. So, um, background history is very important, and that's why they always say you should marry from children from good homes. So you need to understand their family background to understand how to really deal with that. We cannot now say, okay, this is even if that happened. Let's say that has happened, and you finally understood that this person is coming from a zigzagging environment. It's always problem, problem, problem. Therefore, the person doesn't see problem as a serious issue. Every day will have to come up with issue, or those you see that usually nag. They nag from their tender age, and they don't see it as anything, and they grow up seeing that as a normal issue, and that affect the emotion of their partner, and they don't care whether it affect because that's their normal way of conversation. Some maybe they grow up in on the street where or the environment where it is chaotic, so they will carry the chaos to when they get married, and they will not see it as anything. Now, if you come up from a very refined uh, family and you have a structure, imagine you are coming with another person, you are meeting with another person that does not understand what is called structure. That is going to be serious problem. So background history is very important. And if you want to solve that problem, it also depends on that partner. The person who is coming with that chaotic home, and you have to one be a little bit patient by trying to be correcting if that person is willing to be corrected, because there are some that they they grow up not being not even ready to listen to anyone, not even their parents. Therefore, when they get to their husband home, they will think the same pattern they're using that their parents have been accommodating is going to be the same when they get to their partner's home as married couple. That does not work. So history, background history, is very, very important. It's not the issue of money. It's not the issue of maybe the lifestyle you want. It is how you want to build your future. You cannot go to uh, the desert and you expect to bring enough water from there. You have to struggle to drink. If not, you're going to die of dehydration. So that's why it's important to understand where your partner is coming from, so that you can understand the approach you are going to use to relate with your partner.
And uh, does this really relate to generational incidents?
Yes.
For
Um,
instance, you understand where I'm coming from, right?
yes, I
Like
got
issues
you.
that have been stemming from one generation to the other, like issues
If you
of divorce,
exactly
inconsistent marriage.
correct.
Does it stem from the same roots as well? And how do you think we can break that trend, if at all anyone in that situation would love to
Let's
do
take
something about it?
the black community for or African American community as a case study. They are not